Hey, beautiful people. Welcome or welcome back to Well with Mika, where we talk real wellness for your real life. Remember, that's right for you, energizing, achievable, and lasting. So, today, what we're going to get into is training your palate or retraining your palate to make sure that good for you food actually tastes good. We want that healthy food to start tasting better than the processed stuff that you want to reach for too often, right? I know it might sound too good to be true, but there's actually science behind regenerating your taste buds. Well, the fact is that your taste buds regenerate every 10 to 14 days. So that means that you can actually retrain your palate to prefer less sugar, less salt, and more whole foods. So if you ever thought like, oh my gosh, I could never give up sugar. I love the sweetness, or healthy food just tastes bad. It doesn't taste good to me. We've been there. Many of us have been there, but what I've learned is that you can cut things out incrementally. You don't have to do it overnight. I used to drink tea with 3 full teaspoons of sugar back in the day, and now I could drink tea with nothing and still enjoy it for the most part. So, there's a way to gently teach your body and your brain to enjoy food differently. So, the good news is that science says it is completely possible, and we're going to get into how. So, here's what's actually happening: your taste buds, they regenerate, like I said, every 10 to 14 days. So, that means your sense of taste is constantly renewing itself, and you can influence what it prefers. So when we eat plenty sugar or salt, our taste buds in our brains, ooh, is like a party, right? It gets used to that level of intensity. And then over time, we start needing more and more just to feel satisfied. So it's like, when you have the volume on a certain level and it's pretty high in the song, you jam in, but then now that level becomes your new norm. And once you hit a certain level, it just you get used to it, and it no longer is sounding good to you anymore. And that's how our taste buds are. So we got to cut it back. So if we gradually cut back, those taste buds, they're going to reset. Then suddenly the things that went from tasting like a brick, they start tasting like butter, right? And even the fruit tastes sweeter. You can actually taste the flavor of a tomato again. So there's also a brain piece to this, because every time you eat something you enjoy, your brain makes a note. Oh yes, this one made me feel good. That's how cravings and habits form. But you can reprogram that by pairing new, healthier foods with positive experiences. So that's the brain connection. So whether we're talking a good meal with family, music while you cook, trying a new recipe that just, makes you excited, those things that's how your brain plays into the whole process. So your brain is associating this with something positive. And this matters because, excess sugar, that contributes to inflammation, blood sugar issues, and increased disease risk. Then too much salt can raise your blood pressure and heart disease risk. So cutting back, it doesn't have to feel like deprivation. It can actually make food taste good. You might actually start to taste the real food, and it has a real impact. So what I've learned is that the all or nothing approach, it doesn't work for most of us. Now, so if you're one of those people, it's like, oh, I cold turkey quit this, then good for you. That you are not who I'm speaking to, okay? Is if you have, a busy family, work, stress, all of it, instead of doing the cold turkey quitting, try gradual step down strategies. For example, let's think sugar, right? Let's say you like to eat yogurt that's sweetened, right? You have your sweetened yogurts with your fruits. Actually, this very nice lady asked me that in the supermarket the other day. She asked me, "Oh, which yogurt should I eat?" But anyway, I digress. So you have your yogurt, right? And it's all sweetened up. It got your fruits in it, right? Instead of just having that one, now we're going to mix your way down. You're going to mix it with some plain yogurt. So maybe start half and half, or 75-25, and then gradually increase the amount of plain. Then in a few weeks, the plain will, you'll actually get used to the taste of the plain, and it'll be good on its own. And even if you don't love it, you can actually like it and tolerate it, okay? The other approach could be to let's think of your beverages. Reduce gradually, like the sugar in your coffee, your tea. Maybe cut it down by a teaspoon or a quarter teaspoon each time. Or you could just do, let's say you set a quarter teaspoon to cut down over a few weeks. Keep that and then bring it down again. And then your palate will start to adjust even without you even noticing, right? You want to let the whole food shine. So when you cut back on added sugar, natural sweetness and things like your berries, your sweet potatoes, even your carrots, they become so much more noticeable. If you've ever cut back and then you bite into a sweet potato or you bite into an apple, even a carrot, when I tell you it could almost taste like candy. And forget, roast your carrots. You roast a carrot, let me tell you, it is delicious, okay? It does actually feel and taste like a treat. So now when we talk about salt, maybe instead of just salting the surface, you want to actually salt the surface, I'm sorry, not the pot. So instead of just salting during cooking, add a small amount right before you eat so you taste it more with less overall salt. But alternatively, things like your proteins, like when you're salting your chicken, when you're seasoning your chicken, you do want to season it beforehand so that salt could get into the meat, so you'll use less salt on top of the meat. So salt it prior to your eating. I'm talking protein specifically, so that it could get into the meat, so you could have that flavor in the meat. So you'll use less salt on top of it. Okay. So just kind of experiment with how you salt your foods while you cook. When you're eating your veggies, don't salt during the process, salt after, okay? And then think of using finishing salts if your budget allows, because flake finishing salts are actually more expensive, but use things like flaky sea salt or that coarse salt, because it gives a bigger flavor impact with smaller amounts, because those crystals, they're going to hit your tongue differently, and then that flavor, it just hits different. Then you want to boost the flavor profile with things like acids and herbs. You're thinking lemon juice, vinegar, fresh herbs, garlic, spices. All those things make your food taste more vibrant, so you'll need less salt. Squeeze a bit of lemon on your veggies or your fish, and that could actually transform how they taste. So don't sleep on the acids and the herbs. You have to add those in. Then you want to try low sodium versions. Start with mixing. Let's say you use soy sauce, use regular with low sodium until you can get to just continuously use the low sodium. Or if you use things that have seasoning packets, maybe try using half the seasoning packets and add in some extra spices to account for that, added flavor boost. So each time you step down a little, your body adjusts. And in a few weeks, that less sweet or less salty version will become your new normal. Then you can step down again if you want. And I want you to not think of, oh, I tried it already and it didn't work. Don't give up on the foods you think you don't like after one try. I mean, if you've ever had a child, they will spit out the food, spit it out, and spit it out, and then you're left with food all over your floor, all over the table. I mean, that's what they do, but you keep giving them until they finally take it. So dietitians say it can take like 5 to 10 exposures of for your palate to actually appreciate a new flavor. So don't just give up after one try. Roast your veggies instead of steaming them, because like I said, roasting brings out the natural sweetness and caramelization. Try your greens with olive oil and garlic instead of plain. So experiment with different cooking methods. Give everything a few tries before you just say, nah, I can't do that. Okay. I noticed that after, for me, when I cut back on the sugar, like I said, everything really did start to come alive and taste. I could actually taste the food. So it wasn't that the food had changed, it's really that I changed. So I just want you to really think about that as you go through the process. Now, what that journey might look like, let's say week one, your food, like it might taste bland. It's going to taste like or it's going to taste nice to you. And that's normal. Don't expect it's going to taste delicious. Your taste buds have to adjust, right? Then week 2 to 3, your palate is starting to adjust and you'll notice, okay, I don't need as much sweetener or I don't need as much salt to feel satisfied. Then week 4 and beyond, that's when the foods that you used to find bland, they have that flavor, that plain Greek yogurt that tasted sour. Now it's like, okay, it's a little tangy, but I'm satisfied. Fresh fruits, okay, this is like dessert. So be patient with yourself, be patient with the process, because your taste buds, the change is going to take some time. So what I want you to consider is this very important note. Ultra processed foods are engineered to be hyper palatable. So we're having this conversation because what happened was there are articles that came out talking about the link between colorectal cancer and ultra processed foods, and there might be a link there because there's a rise in that form of cancer, especially in younger people. Now, these food scientists design them to hijack your taste buds with those extreme combinations of sugar, salt, and fat that really don't exist in nature. So that's why this conversation is happening right now and why we have to talk about processed foods within this retraining process. When you eat mostly processed foods, your palate gets used to those artificial extremes. So those whole foods, they taste like shit. And if you're comparing them, you can't compare them. You cannot do it. An apple is not gonna taste like a bar. It's just not gonna do it. An apple and a Snickers are very two different things. It's just not gonna work. So as you eat more whole foods and less processed stuff, you break free. You get that freedom from that cycle. Your palate, it recalibrates to appreciate those real flavors, the sweetness of a berry, the umami of the mushrooms, the complexity of the herbs and the spices. So I don't want you to think that you're giving up on flavor, because you're not, okay? You're discovering, like, all right, there is real flavor, and this is what it actually tastes like. It's not just bombarding your taste buds with all this salt and sugar. And another thing I want you to add to your toolkit is mindful eating. And no, I am not talking about, you know, science and stush. I ain't saying you got to be super fancy and be in complete silence and, no, I'm just saying you need to slow down enough to actually taste what's in your mouth. It's that simple. When you eat, try to notice the texture. Oh, shoot, this is crunchy, or this is creamy, or this is crispy. You ain't got to communicate it with the world. You just have to know it for yourself. The smell, what do you notice before it even hits your tongue? The temperature, warm, cool, room temperature. The flavor, sweet, salty, sour, bitter, umami, or the combination. Just have that real sensory experience as you eat, because we're usually rushing through eating, is distracted, and our brain is just missing all these signals. So, and then, you just end up wanting more and more. Even if you're full, you don't even recognize when you're full. So when you eat, just kind of slow down, pay attention. Even the simple meals might start to be more enjoyable. Let me tell you, sometimes you bite into that apple and you're like, woo, I didn't even know an apple could be this good, all right? So just want you to consider that as well as you're retraining your palate. So the bottom line is that you can retrain your palate, and it doesn't take perfection, just some small consistent steps. Every single time you make a gentle change, you are reminding your body that it can adapt, and that doesn't need, extremes to feel good. So if you've ever said, I can't do it, I can't give up the sugar, I don't like veggies, I get it. We've all been there, but I just don't want you to quit overnight. I want you to really give your taste buds time to catch up to the healthier version of you that's trying to emerge. Give yourself that chance. Give yourself that opportunity to really taste good food, all right? Taste it. Taste the goodness in the good food. So this week, try all the small changes that we've mentioned, okay? And then celebrate it, because every single step counts. So, all right, beautiful people, that's all for this episode. I hope and pray that you see that change doesn't have to be harsh. It can be kind, it can be slow, and still be powerful. So if this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone. Comment below. Let me know what you're going to try to change. What are you stepping down from? If it's sugar, if it's salt, how you're going to do it. What did you notice if you've tried it before? Let's have the conversation in the comments. As always, take care of yourself, take care of your family, your community, one real step at a time. Happy healthing. Peace.